Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the Lookout Podcast. I am joined by the great Sam Forstag. Thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Luke. Second podcast ever. I'm new to the medium, so stoked to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm stoked to have you on, dude. I'm stoked to be your second. I wish I was your first, but, you know, I'll settle for second.
It'll never be the same.
Yeah, I know, man. The first time's always you never forget your first, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Why I wanted to have you on is because you're running for Congress?
Yes, I'm running for Congress in Montana's 1st Congressional District. That's the western half of the state here. We got Bozeman, Butte, Missoula, heading up to the Flathead Valley, Blackfeet Reservation, CSKT. It's a big chunk of ground.
It is.
Does
it run all the way to the border then, or not quite?
It does.
It does all the way up to Canada?
Yeah, it's got the whole Kootenai in it. We were just up in Troy and Libby, actually, with my RB Patty that you've had on the show, I think.
Yeah. Me and Patty had a good time, and I was gonna have him on after his rookie year, so I wanted to have him on again.
Yeah.
So the reason why I want to ask you that is because so you had a long career in wildland fire and then smoke jumping, and then you had to resign to pursue this, right?
Yep. Yeah, I did 8 years of fire, so I got 4 years here around Montana. Started over in Lincoln, a little bit east of Missoula here on the district. Ended up doing 3 years on the Great Northern Fire Crew.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
we just missed each other, dude, I bet.
Were you on the Northern?
Yeah, I was a squad boss for him in 12, and then I came back in 14 to crew boss for him for the second half of the season.
Wow, you, me, and everyone else in fire. It seems like every third jumper you meet.
Dude, there's a window in time, man, where everyone's at the Northern, and what a great crew to be on, man.
Yeah, I mean, amazing program for learning about fire and getting young people, engaged in it and actually, learned up. And, we were clocking 1,000-hour seasons when I was there.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to make money, too.
Yeah, good grind, a good intro to, crew life and, how things run and get a little bit more than just what the district has to offer, kind of, because you're getting, well, not even kind of, you're just getting more fire, right? More fire exposure as a Type 2 IA crew.
Yeah,
absolutely. Not quite like hotshot stuff, but, a little more advanced.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you work a late enough season, you start getting into all sorts of shit. But,
start tickling the hotshot activity a little bit,
Yeah, but the Northern was great. Just like you, I did my last 2 seasons as squatty when I was there, and then rookied in 22 over at North Cascades. Just like you, I'm following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
2 seasons there, and then last 2 here in Missoula.
Oh, but yes, yeah. Well, man, we are very similar because I finished out my last 2 here in Missoula as well. Last 3, I guess, 15, 16, 18, part of 14. But yeah, finished out my career here in Missoula. So yeah, very similar, man. I had no idea. Yeah, NCSB, what a great place. And you were the first Ram Air class at NCSB?
Yes, 2022. First year that they rookied on squares, or that we did. 5 of us ended up making it through. They'd had a class rookie on the square down in Reading back in 21. But it was their first time doing it in-house.
Oh, in-house. Oh, gotcha. So there was a class just before you but they didn't do it in NCSB. They went to Reading for the training, but then came back.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha. See, I think that's kind of cool. So a lot of people don't know, the flexible nature of jumping. How, sometimes rookie, for Region 6, sometimes rookie training would be in Redmond. Sometimes it's at NCSB, and you kind of move around a little bit. And then, now things are a little bit more in-house. But it's kind of cool to see that,
Oh, absolutely. That class of 21 was a class of 1 because the other 2 washed. So small and elite force, the 21ers.
The single Ram Air.
Yeah, absolutely.
For folks who don't know, Ram Air is what you see the skydivers or Red Bull folks use. It's that big wing parachute. And before that, we were on the round parachute, which is what I jumped. And it's kind of a picture right there.
Yeah, that's what the real men jumped, or that's what they told me at NCSB.
Ooh, yeah, that's what you hear. It's funny.
The real men with bad knees.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. I know, and there's this level of smoke jumper. There's probably a few folks that actually hit the top of it, but there was every time I felt like I'd made it. I remember, I think it was even my Bob Marshall jump. I was like, fucking A, I got a Bob Marshall jump. I was so pumped. And then I ran into some old boy, and I think it was the 75th anniversary, and he's like, I was we were talking, comparing jumps, and I said something about the Bob, and he's like, well, son, you're not a real jumper until you crack silk over the black range. I was like, oh, man, one more thing. And I never got the black range.
They don't even make them out of silk anymore. What am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, man. But it was always every time I ran into someone, it was one more thing that you had to do to become a real jumper. And never did quite make it. I tried.
Yeah, well, real as we can be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can only do so much. But I want to bring that up because you have to give up smoke jumping, which is a dream career for most of us, right?
Big time.
Most people don't leave, just to leave, right? There's pursuing something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or for me, it was an illness or an injury, which happens to folks. So I'm just what was the driver? I guess to run for office.
I mean, absolutely, man. The best job I've had in my life, and being a raft guide is probably a second.
Oh, yeah.
But man, I left because in the last year we lost about a quarter of the Forest Service here in Montana, and most of the jobs that we lost, I mean, Doge cuts, early retirements, all the rest, are people who are GS6s and below, and that is folks making less than $20 an hour, typically. And man, when we're losing 300 people in one day, we couldn't even get a damn meeting with our Congressman Ryan Zinke from our union's local. And this guy, you know, we are here in Western Montana, public lands are something all of us care about. It's the most incredible natural resource we got. That's why a lot of us live here.
Yeah.
But you know, we got a congressman who's been pretending to be a public lands advocate while they got all the public lands agencies. And it's worse at the Park Service. It's about as bad at the BLM. But that's really what pushed me over the edge, man. It's just seeing my union members, a lot of them secondary fire or non-fire, but people who are working their tail off, keeping trails clear, making sure you can get to a campground, just have their lives turned upside down when they were just trying to work as a GS4. I mean, shit, man, in the midst of those Doge cuts back in late February, they fired a GS2. Like, you don't get much more efficient than a GS2 swinging a tool in the woods.
100%, man. And that's been kind of my argument for years with this podcast. It's part of my name, it Lookout Podcast, is because, you know, they're always talking about, like, autonomizing or, you know, using a camera, I guess, is in better words, for, you know, fire detection on lookouts. Like, still having a lookout tower there, but having a camera mounted, not a human presence.
See that
anymore.
in Oregon now, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what are we doing? Like, some of them are volunteers, some of the lookouts, and the ones that aren't are, like, at the highest are GS5s, and they're not making a whole lot of money. It's a very short season.
Yeah.
So we're not losing a ton of money by staffing a lookout, which it's way better to have human eyes up there. Like, I leave Haugen on. He's a long-time lookout, over 30 years.
I've heard of that guy.
Yeah. Oh, he's the man. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to meet him, you'd love to talk to him. He's a great guy. But, like, over 30 years in, right? And we've all experienced being on a fire where, like, you're down in a hole and there's you either have a lookout that you post or there's an actual lookout in a tower like this who's got your back. And you know that they're watching out for you all the time. Where, like, if something happens, like, are you going to get, like, eventually down the line, is there going to be, like, a red alert that kind of hits your phone from a camera? And then you, like, you dial in to kind of see what it's looking at? Where in, like, real time, I could be like, you know, Leaf could shout down like, hey, man, you got some weather coming. Or, hey, man, the fire's turning, man. You guys might want to get out of there. And it's like that. Instead of me having to try to dial into something or get some kind of, you know, digital warning that I got to dial into somehow, like in future technology.
I mean, shit, you're writing an essay. I'm not trusting a robot to do the final edits or provide the sources, right? Because, I mean, crazy shit happens, and I don't want a robot watching my back door either. Yeah. Let alone something like lookouts. I mean, it's one of the coolest, like, pieces of heritage we got in the Forest Service is the fire lookout.
Yes.
You know, and like, man, at such a low cost, we have human beings protecting other human beings and up there, you know, guarding over our public lands. It's automation is a whole thing to talk about here. Is, you know, it's got benefits, but it's a shame to see us losing that job.
Yeah, it's a good call. Like, it's got benefits for sure. You know, like, I mean, even like the drone technology we're bringing in, like, huge, but like it doesn't beat out the presence of a human person on top of the mountain, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I will say, I remember being on a fire just outside of Tucson back in probably 19, maybe 20, and they told us they had a drone dropping PSDs, you know, the little ping pong balls.
Oh, yeah.
Full of fuel.
Dragon eggs.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, doing a firing operation, and that this was like one of the first times they've let a drone or had a drone conduct large-scale PSD operations. And, man, it worked like a charm. I was surprised that nobody else seemed a little bit scared that we have robots literally raining fire from the sky. But, you know, it's working out so far.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't get blown off course or something weird happens, right? Like, 'cause that's the thing. Like, you can course correct in a little bit more real time. I feel like with our present technology, when you have someone in the helicopter and someone around the PSD machine behind that, the helicopter pilot, you know, once in a while stuff happens, wind and gusts, and you get some off course, but instantly you can rate it on the ground like, hey, you know, whatever section where, you know, we think we got a few wide of the, you know, prescription. You know, and people go and just stomp them out.
Absolutely.
Not a big deal. You know, can do it in real time. But yeah, like I thought about that too. And then, you know, on the other side too, I've been like, you got those like Boston Dynamic robots, those like dog ones.
Terrifying.
Like, oh, so terrifying. I would hate to see one on a fire line. But I thought about like, if you could use one as like, somehow fill it with like drip torch fuel. And it could put like hotline around the areas or even like fire in the areas that we can't really get to on foot. Because there was like a issue, I think it was this last season on the Bitter where there was a bunch of big rollers that were coming down and, you know, got really close. Like one of the size of a Volkswagen Bug got really close to clipping the guy. And it's like one of the hot shots, I think. I was like, oh man. So it's like if we could have like, I mean, it would suck to lose a drone dog thing, but a lot better than losing a life, you know?
Reduce some risk. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking like stuff like that, you know, like eventually the problem is like it always goes a little bit too far. It feels like, you know, it starts with the drone dog that can go in some steep country and burn pockets that you don't want to put a human in.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like there's no humans involved. Someone's in the office just like go, you know, and the robots go and do their thing.
Yeah. Shit, we're only 5 minutes in. We're already getting to robots.
Oh, I know, it's getting deep. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh man.
But I mean, I guess where we started, I mean, my brain goes all over the place. But yeah. I decided to run. I mean, because I'm seeing all my union members. You know, we're NIFI, our local 60. You're part of as well, right? It covers the Lolo, Bitterroot, Custer Gallatin National Forest, the Jump Basin, the regional offices, and we got hardworking people on our public lands just getting gutted left and right by the literal richest man in the world. And we had Elon Musk in charge of this effort. And at the end of the day, you look back at the numbers and, you know, it's not just public lands, it's the Veterans Administration. I mean, they have gutted so many federal agencies and we didn't save a damn dime on it because half these folks ended up getting their jobs back or needing back pay because they do it all illegally. Yeah. And, you know, shoot, if you're in the Forest Service this year, you wake up one morning to an email from OPM, but it's Elon Musk trolling you, calling you a low productivity federal employee. And I look around at some of the guys at the Jump Base, they've been doing fire for 20 or 25 years. And we're getting Elon Musk, of all people, that guy has never swung a damn tool in his life, trying to tell us that we should go into the private sector so we could be more high productivity. And it's the same as when you end up on a fire, and it's the difference between having a division that's actually been field going and knows what it's like to fight fire on a crew or whatever, what have you, or a division who has not, man. I mean, like,
100%.
It's outright mismanagement, and it's like screwing working people over, and it's the same story it always is. And yeah, at the end of the day, I looked around, and it's just like you say in Jumping, man, no one else is coming.
Yeah.
And it did not feel like anyone else was coming to talk to and about people like me, working people who it feels like are getting screwed in Montana right now, and we got a multimillionaire representing us. So
yeah, totally, man. I got a few things. I'm trying to not totally lose my thoughts, but I got a few thought bubbles on that because, like, one of them for sure is like, you know, within our leadership class, we have these, you know, those things called the power vacuum, right? The power vacuum. So, like, for people listening, here's a kind of a bad example, but example, like, a fire comes out and say, like, me, you, Brandon, and there's a bunch of us, right? We're all about the same qualified. You know, like, we'll say it's an IC4. We're all IC4s in the room. Mm-hmm. But sometimes there's that power vacuum where it takes a while for someone to jump in, right? Everyone's, like, recognized, like, oh, man, someone needs to take charge. You see a lot in medical emergencies. Mm-hmm. And then if someone doesn't take charge, then it's chaos. Usually someone does. But sometimes it takes a bit. So, like, recognizing early, like, all right, well, there's a need here. And then stepping into that role, you know, like, and as fire folks, we experience it quite a bit, and first responders. So that's kind of what I envisioned when you saw, like, man, there's someone needs to do something about this. You know?
And then you look around, and it's, I mean, shoot, man, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm running as a Democrat only because we're in a two-party system, and you got to win to change people's lives. So I'm running as a Democrat here in a primary because there's no way to talk about what I want to talk about, which is how you make housing and healthcare and childcare affordable and quick, and be running as an independent and get through the system in a way you can win.
100%.
So, but man, I mean, like, I look around and it didn't feel like anyone was fixing this stuff in either party. Mm-hmm. Truly, especially at the national level, right? I mean, shit. We had a lot of jumpers who, you had the supplement, but are making $19 an hour as a GS6 in 2024.
Yeah.
That's after 4 years of the Democrats having the White House and 2 years of them having both houses of Congress.
Yeah.
That is a goddamn problem, if you pardon my French, if you live in somewhere like Missoula where the median house costs $570,000.
Yeah, and then when we petitioned for a COLA, which folks are probably familiar with in the military, a lot of them have a COLA, which is cost of living allowance, which adjusts for a high cost area. Like if you live in San Diego and you're in the military, you get an adjustment to adjust for your pay. Mm-hmm. Well, Montana's just as expensive as anywhere now, and we're not getting any cost adjustment, you know?
Yeah. It's, I mean, people's lives were not getting materially better under either darn party. And you know what, what it comes back to is that's what government is supposed to be for, is to make your life better, to make you safer, and to solve big problems that the market ain't solving. And here in Western Montana, at least, the market was not solving for a housing crisis. Like, we have a full-blown housing crisis here and in a lot of the country, and it was not solving for a broken healthcare system where, shit, man, I mean, I jumped a fire in North Cascades back in 23, tore my calf fully on day 4. It was excruciating.
That's brutal, bro.
And limped around for the last couple of days of that fire, limp off it, drive back here home to Missoula to deal with some shit on the property. And I go to the only orthopedist in town, and they tell me, oh, you've got GEHA, which is United Health Insurance, Government Employees Health Association. We don't deal with GEHA. That's out of network. So I end up paying for that shit out of pocket.
Oh, no.
You know, like that is what so many people's experience with our healthcare system is, and it does not work.
No.
Even if you're a firefighter half the time, let alone if you go to workman's comp. I mean, we could talk all day about people getting screwed through workman's comp. And like,
100%.
None of this shit works, and it doesn't have to be like that, man. We are in the richest country in the world.
Yeah, man. And I can speak to that too personally because I got about over 17 years, seasons, a lot of seasons, but those seasons that people, and I was going to touch this on the Elon Musk thing, is like people like Elon Musk and all these heads, they have no idea that you put 1,000 hours of overtime. That's just overtime in a season. Like we're working as much as anybody in a 365-day year, as anybody. Like we're like any firefighter is working as much as any person in a 9 to 5.
18 and 8,000 hours. That's a year and a half plus worth of hours.
Yeah, and so like when people like Elon Musk is like, well, like they gotta show up and be at the office every day just like the rest of us. Like, no, man, like we're working as much as you in half the time.
No, we don't go to the office, man. I don't got time for the 5 questions email you want us sending once a week because we don't get on the damn computer. We're fighting fire.
Yeah,
like fundamentally, we got people who they're putting in charge at the top that don't understand how we actually do things on the ground.
Totally, yeah. And then, like you said, when that 5-question email came out, most fire folks are in Region 8 burning, like you said, not near a computer. And not having access to a computer less to their time because they don't have time to mess with that shit. Like you said, there's a job to do. Mm-hmm. And also, like on those lines, too, what I heard recently was that, I was dry shit in here in my throat, was that they're like, oh, well, government doesn't bring in money. Well, yeah, most government agencies don't, but we do. Like we save money, and like historically, especially fire, because we're saving timber products, so... That's how fire comes in. But then all of our like rec areas, they bring in money, and all of our fees, firewood permits. Not so much right now because they're free, but historically, firewood permit costs money. Christmas tree permits, like there's all these income building things, and like you said, for most of GS6 workforce, it costs not a whole lot.
Oh yeah, and you want to talk about? I mean, if the people in charge were worried about these public goods bringing in money, they wouldn't have just cut in half the royalty rate for mining on public lands, right? I mean, they're not just gutting the staff positions, but they're gutting the few revenue streams that we got. And man, all of that aside, there's something called a public good, right? That is actually what we came together to create government for. A public good is something that is supposed to serve to fill a gap that, again, the market is not filling. That is why we have put this government together, because there were gaps that the private market did not fill.
Totally.
And you know what? Firefighting is one of those things, as is having a good developed trails program, as is having accessible campgrounds and roads that you can actually make it up to get to that campground. And man, in the last year, when we got forests without any trails crew left.
Yeah.
I go back to Lincoln, where I started, again, an hour and a half east of town here. Lincoln, when I was there on the district, they had a couple big old fires, Alice Creek, and Rice Ridge the year before.
Yeah.
But so they had a bear crew. There were 40 trails crew members in Lincoln.
Yeah.
That summer. And when we had a local fire, they pulled militia together and some trails crew folks, and we handled that all in-house. Probably saved tens of millions of dollars, potentially, on this IC3. This year in Lincoln, they had, I think I went back, and they were down to 1. You go down to the Bitterroot National Forest. I mean, how many trails crew members you got left?
Yeah, 1.
One.
Yeah.
For an entire forest.
Trail Stu, I think is his name.
Oh my
God. Just one guy.
I mean, it's comical if it wasn't so damn sad.
I know, right? Because it's huge. Like you said, the trail system just in the West Fork alone is massive.
Yeah. And again, if anyone who does the work knows that we are not blowing a whole bunch of money on trail crew members.
Yeah.
Okay, people are working their ass off for 2-week hitches, not getting a whole lot of money, and they're doing it because it's a public service and they love their public lands.
Yeah, and they sleep right next to where they work. You know, like you said, there's no cost in housing because they're out there in the woods. Yeah. And then they come back and usually all of them jam into like one tiny, little apartment to save money.
Yeah, and it stinks to high hell. But man, I mean, it is ridiculous that these are the things that we're gutting, because this is the sort of place where we get the most bang for our buck.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of place that, I mean, this is what makes it so that you can leave Missoula or Bozeman or Deer Lodge and in 30 minutes be at a trailhead, and in 30 more minutes be on the top of a mountain.
Yeah,
and it doesn't cost you a damn thing. And, this is what they're taking away from us right now, and nobody else is doing anything about it in a way that it felt like was going to work.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I think more people are seeing this, and I hope they are, because the word's getting out. Like it feels like more, because like the one that really breaks my heart is the Boundary Water one. Boundary Waters.
Yeah, the Boundary Water Wilderness, just last week. And I mean, shit, man. I was getting texts last week about Ryan Zinke, again, our congressman, Montana's first, who I'm running against here. He founded the Public Lands Caucus, right? Because maybe he was in some hot water and he wanted to put his name on something. He was the one whipping votes on the House floor to get that bill passed. to wrench away protections for the Boundary Waters wilderness that a million plus people go to every damn year.
Some of the cleanest water in the whole world.
Yeah. For what, a nickel mine up there.
And that doesn't even belong to us.
Yeah.
You know, like I watched this big thing on the other night because I was, you know, like just trying to catch up on like how our public land. This is part of the reason why I brought the podcast together. Like I don't mention this too. Like I'm not a huge political person. Sam wasn't really political at all before all this stuff happened. But then like watching our fellow, you know, Forest Service employees that are, you know, just like losing their livelihoods and scraping to live here in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And I got another point on that here in a second, but like, so it's you know, like at one point, like get off the sidelines, you know, I've been trying to petition for public land since I started this thing, but now it's like the fight just keeps, it's going to be never ending. Like we're always going to have to make sure we have our public lands protected because that's just the nature of the beast. But it's been under fire more than I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I'm 40 years old, so I mean, not a long time, but I'm been around a minute, you know? So it's like, you know, it's awful to see. So like that's like people who follow this podcast know I don't get too political on it because you know I just more want to share good stories and the good about the outdoors and not like get into the weeds about stuff. But like, it's you know we all got to get in the game to try to save these places like the Boundary Waters and the Bob Marshall Wilderness and our national parks. You know, otherwise it's gonna go away if we don't do something as a community. And that's what someone put on one of the videos last night. It was like it was Ryan Callahan from was it Montana Backcountry.
Hunters and Anglers.
Hunters and Anglers, yeah. Montana
Backcountry sometime, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, man. I want to have him on. He sounds like an awesome guy. And he's like, so what's the point of us even having elected officials if they're not going to do the job of the people? 670,000 votes, I believe, is what was against the Boundary Waters from the public.
Yeah.
670,000 people, you know, wrote to their government official, you know, and it's like, how is that not swaying it? Like, that should be like a no, like a full no. Like, the people have spoken. We'll leave the Boundary Waters alone. And to tag more into that bugs me is that the thing I watched the other night was like saying that this mine is not ours. It's not a U.S. mine that's going to go in place there in the Boundary Waters and threaten the Boundary Waters. It's a copper mine that's going to be threatening or shipping copper off to China, right? So it's like
it's a Chinese nickel mine. Yeah. And I mean, what it comes down to, 670,000 people telling you they don't want this wilderness area to lose its protections. I mean, this is the crown jewel of northern Minnesota.
Yeah.
And man, what it comes down to is money. Like money talks.
And you see how loud it is.
Yes. And it's the same all across this damn system, man. I mean, shit. The average net worth of a congressperson in this country is $3 to $4 million, depending on the source that you look at. Yeah. And it ain't much better for a Republican or a Democrat.
No.
And you wonder whether it's them stripping away our access to public lands or whether it's them cutting the top income tax rate year after year until someone making $80,000 a year is paying a higher percentage than someone making $1 billion. You don't got to wonder how that happens if you see who's actually making it into these offices, right? Because they're not like us. These are not people who actually have to rely on public lands to go do some hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If they want to hunt, they can go on their buddy's
dude
ranch.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but not all of us can do that.
No, man.
So like we ought to be angry and like we ought to fight back. And I mean, shit, man, you go into a lot of these spaces and you know, I talked to an old Republican state legislator here in Montana, and he told me, he said, you walk into the state legislature, there's 50 state senators, there's 100 state representatives, and you don't have 150 valedictorians, you got 150 class presidents, and there's a difference. And in a lot of these rooms, it is not the most capable people. It is the people who, unfortunately, nowadays are able to jump through a lot of hoops based on money to get to that office that they're in. And then it takes money to stay in that office. So, I mean, we got to attack these problems at the roots if we care about our public lands and all the rest.
Yeah, exactly, man. Preserve the life that we have. Because like you said, like leaving it to the next generation is like my biggest concern. Like I got so fortunate to grow up in Montana and get to utilize this public water and public ground. And man, I had a nightmare one time about like the whole Bitter Mountain Range getting sold off, you know, like to some rich billionaire, you know, and all the trailheads had a gate. And all the gates had a fee and a day limit. And like once you hit the day limit, you couldn't go in there anymore, but you still had to pay a fee. And I remember this one of those dreams that like lasts forever. At the beginning, it was like a couple bucks. By the end of the like nightmare, when I was waking up, it was like $50 for a day pass, just for a day pass. And I remember like in the dream being so pissed off because it was like, you know, going up like Kootenai Creek, and a lot of these trails up in the Bitter
waking nightmare. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like going up Kootenai Creek, and it was like, I remember like. It's still one of my goals to do one of the loops, like go up Kootenai and come out like Blodgett or wherever loops out. These big loops in the Bitter, they're super cool trail systems, right? And but it's way more than a day hike. That's a couple day hike, you know. Like a 2-day hike at the, if you're cooking,
Mm-hmm.
but there's cool lakes to get back in there to camp out at, and then you could make a big loop and come back out in the Bitterroot, or you could go all the way into Idaho if you want. Well, you're gonna go to Idaho anyways.
Yeah,
but
there's
you can
something
keep
coming
going
out Bear
Idaho.
Creek that way. Yeah,
Yeah, Bear
look
Creek.
amazing.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, like there's these little loops, so you can do bigger loops. And I, like in the dream, I remember being like, well, what the hell? Like I can't even, I can only get 50, for a day pass. I get $50, or $50 for a day pass, and I can only go in there for the day, and then I can't even do the loop I want to do because I don't have enough time. Like how's that work?
Well, what you're describing, man, that's the reality. That's the play, right? I mean, they did it with public education. They're just doing it with public lands. Now you got the service.
Yeah.
You cut the funding, and then you turn around and you point at the service and you say, "Look, it's not working. It's too damn expensive. We got to privatize this and make it more efficient."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you jump a fire in Oregon, and if you don't catch it with that load of jumpers, I mean, shit, the next resource you got is probably going to be a contract resource.
Yep.
Or I mean, this summer, I jumped a fire. We jumped a load outside of Steamboat Springs in Colorado.
Oh, beautiful.
And it went big. I mean, it was ripping. It was torching up and jumping the line every night at 3 a.m. It was a nightmare. But we caught that thing at about 500 acres, I think. I mean, I left after 2 weeks, and they were starting to get a handle on it. And we're running a task force of hand crews, mostly contract crews. So we're at 3-4 days in here, putting an order for pumps and hoses. And one of the locals tells me, you know what? We're not going to get those pumps and hoses until end of shift tomorrow, because they shut down the gear cache here in Steamboat. They centralized it down to Denver, which is exactly what they're doing with the regional offices here.
Yeah.
Right? Shifting our management down to Salt Lake or Denver. So we're going to have to UPS overnight airmail those pumps and hoses up to Steamboat Springs, and then they have to be driven up here. So not only are you getting the resources you need, the basic implements at a slower pace, we are paying out the goddamn wazoo.
Yeah.
What is more expensive than UPS overnight airmailing? And you know what? If we pay UPS, all that's going out of the community. If you were paying the guy at the gear cache here, that was money being invested in a public servant that stays in your local community.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's money better spent. And that is the play all across the board here, right? When they cut a quarter of the Forest Service in Montana, and now they start talking about pulling all of us firefighters out of the agencies as well, and that's another third, and there's another round of VERA, early retirement, going on, you're looking at 20% of the people, 20% of the public servants on our public lands managing all the same acreage. And what the hell do you think they're going to do when we aren't able to clear as much trail as we need to?
Yeah, when the agency flounders.
Yeah, it's just another way to pick our pockets and turn it into profits for the richest people in this country. And that's wrong, and it doesn't actually help us. It actually is going to leave us a lot worse off.
Yeah, totally. I don't think I mentioned that you were VP of the union before we got rolling.
Yeah, vice president of the local. And I mean, all of this sounds
that's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you have that's what you're saying, like how you know all this information.
Yeah. I mean, that's what a union's for, is to push back and get the info out, especially when you're in a public agency and these are all public employees. That should be public information, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Our higher ups might tell you when we go speak at a rally or anything like that. But man, I guess I just want to say that all sounds frustrating and hopeless. It's not hopeless. I mean, You just look at what you're talking about, right? I mean, we had public access issues in the Bitterroot. We got access issues. Look at Holland Lake, or look at the ski resort they tried to put into Lolo. Good people got angry, and good people stood up and they organized, and they stopped both of those things.
Yeah, totally.
Holland Lake Lodge, looked insurmountable, right? There's a whole lot of money behind that.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, but man, I mean, when we organized and when we got the information and when we got the right facts and energy and people on our side, we can stop this. Yeah. So it's too late for the 25%, say, of the Forest Service that we lost in this state. It's too late to get those jobs back as they were, but it's not too late to build it in a way that actually works better and that makes sure that we don't have to start paying private contractors for our trails crews from here on out.
Yeah.
Or just give up any notion of healthy forest management. Like we can do all of that.
Totally.
But it's going to take a lot of work.
100%, man. And and the more of that positivity, man, is like folks like me and you and the kind of middle management, folks who've been in the agency for a while that have seen how to manage start with an unhealthy forest and manage to be more of a healthy forest. We still have the knowledge, we still have the skills. So it's like, if we could build the workforce back, it's not going to really skip a beat too bad. Mm-hmm. We just got to start the younger generation with recruiting, because like I said, with Vera, those people are tired and they've been burned, so they're not coming back,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of the reality here is like we now exist in a country that has significantly diminished capacity at all of our federal agencies. I mean, we're talking public lands. The VA took the brunt.
The post office.
Oh my God, yeah, many times worse
than
the Forest Service or the Park Service. But we can build back from that. And you know what? Actually, we might be able to build it back in a more efficient way because the federal government is pretty damn inefficient in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is none of those inefficiencies actually were the people. The people are not the inefficiency. The GS5s certainly are not the inefficiency, who are line-going people swinging tools or running chainsaws. The inefficiencies are the outdated HR system that we haven't invested in too damn long, and that we might have made worse when we centralized it. Yeah. That makes it so you got to wait 2 months to get a ticket wrapped up. Or like the OWSCP system, your workman's comp, that makes it so it takes 6 to 12 months, even if you broke your back on our practice jump, to get your medical bills paid. Like, those are the inefficiencies that we could invest up front and save a whole lot of money on. And one of the ways I've started thinking about this, man, is we deal with so many sectors of this economy in this country the same way we deal with forest management and wildfire. We wait until it is an absolute crisis and an emergency, and then we throw all the money in the world at it. Yeah. And we deal with it in the least effective, least efficient way possible. I mean, it's the same if it's a 62-year-old woman sitting at St. Pat's here in the emergency room because she couldn't afford a visit to her primary care doctor, as it is if it's the Windy Rock fire outside of Helmville here, where it burned 2,000 acres and cost $56 million.
Yeah.
Like $56 million bucks. Do the math. You could pay 2,000 people $20 an hour to stomp around the woods with a chainsaw and engage in active forest management for $56 million. But you know what? There's a whole lot less profit in that for private contractors, like, say maybe our U.S. Senator Tim Sheehy, who is making $7,000 every time you drop a load of retardant.
Yeah.
So there's not the profit incentive, and the private industry, the companies are not going to push for that more effective and efficient way to deal with our forest management or our healthcare system. It's up to us. So we have to push for it. We got to make this change.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, and then less taxpayer, less of our taxes go out the door, right? Less taxpayer dollars getting thrown at things like you said, air tankers, like aviation, towards, suppressing fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the ramp up of aviation, man. I don't know, like when I first came up, you didn't use aviation like retardant, tankers, unless it was in the prairie and you just need to kind of slow it down so you can get some boots on the ground. It was like a limited use kind of thing, and we use scoopers if we could,
Yeah, certain fuel models, fuel types. Yeah.
And now we're like painting trees, and like they used to tell me, like when I first started, like do not call on a tanker drop on trees on forest, because it's just staying on top. It's not reaching the ground where it needs to be.
It's the wrong tool for the job.
Yeah, but now it seems we're painting everything, so that's what I was kind of confused about.
Man. Well, and man, it's like I can think back to some days, say on the Northern, where I was a GS4 making 13, maybe $14 an hour back then, and I had so many days that I can look back on when I probably watched more money be spent on retardant coming out of VLATs than I did make in my entire career with the Forest Service, or would have made if I worked until retirement, most likely.
Oh man!
You've probably seen multi-million-dollar days of retardant.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the most efficient way to deal with forest management by any means.
Yeah, man.
Like we are just creating all these problems because we don't have the courage to step up and invest in this stuff up front. And we in reality could probably invest in our public lands 3 to 5 times as much for fuels crews, hazardous fuels mitigation, trails crews that are fully staffed, and even fire crews, paying the overtime to go out to, somewhere like Eureka and pull trigger all day and actually do some fuels mitigation. Logging is going to be a part of that as well, responsible logging.
Yeah.
But we would save so much money if we invested more up front. It's just we wouldn't, what the problem is, we'd be saving that money by paying public servants in our local communities instead of paying private industry on the back end where they're raking in profits right now. But if anyone has any trouble believing that we could be saving money, just show up to any type 1 large incident right now, because it's easy to forget when you are on a jump fire, and it actually is pretty damn efficient when you got 8 guys putting out a fire. But the second you get to a fire that's got thousands of people on it, because we have to do that to protect homes and property, man, you start seeing just how much money gets wasted in this industry when we don't have the chutzpah to spend it up front.
Yeah, man. I remember, and then there's that hoarding resources, and the big one is hoarding aviation resources, which is like what I've seen in my time is DC-10, sky cranes, like things like that, because if they let them go, they might not get them back. Understandable. But even for them to sit is a ridiculous amount of money every day that it costs just to keep them on your fire. Yeah. So I remember I did the same thing when I was in Pocatello. The DC-10 is the first time I'd been working next to it. You know, like we're at the Spike base as jumpers in, I think this was 2013, and the DC-10 sitting there. It's impressive looking. But I remember like seeing like the daily cost was on that sucker just to sit there. And then if it goes and drops a load, it's like twice as much. I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but it was like you said, more than I'm going to make in my career.
Oh my god.
And I was like, oh my God. Like,
and you want to, I mean, shit.
This thing isn't even doing anything. You know? And I'm out here working my ass off, you know?
Did you, what that makes me think of is, did you see that draft executive order that got leaked this past April or May about fire aviation, stripping away a whole bunch of regulations? It was the first version of the Wildland Fire Service executive order we saw. This thing got leaked, I think it was in April, and it's 20 pages, one line at the end about we will create a unified wildland fire service. That was a footnote. That was an afterthought. The other 20 pages were just stripping away safety regulations for wildland fire aviation. And I'm talking stuff like saying that any incident commander on the ground, any level, can waive the requirement for an air attack. Right? If you're on a IC4 or IC3 or whatever, right, you can't mix fixed and rotor wing, and if you have more than a certain number of aircraft, you need some sort of aerial supervision to make sure you don't have a damn crash.
Yeah.
And the notion that you would have give an IC5 the ability to waive the requirement for air attack. I mean, shit, if I'm an IC5 on a get and fire and they tell me, yeah, we can get you those ships, but you're going to have to waive the air attack requirement, I'd say, yeah, absolutely, get them here. I want to put this fucking thing out.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not how safety regulations are supposed to work. And I don't want to be in a jump plane showing up to an incident where somebody's waived the air attack requirement, and now suddenly we're all in significantly more danger. And man, it was top to bottom that. And you know what? It was written by somebody who owns a private wildland fire aviation company that wants to boost their profit margins. And that, you know why? It's because it was.
Yeah.
Because we now have people in the highest levels of power, like the United States Senate, who are actively managing companies that exclusively profit from federal and state contracts.
Yeah.
That's out and out corruption, and it's being used in a way to actually make us less safe. And I think that one was bad enough that they stripped a whole lot of those out. But that was one of the moments that I got truly the most angry I have been over the last year, even when people are losing their jobs, because like the chutzpah of somebody who is in a position of immense responsibility to all of us in Montana and is going to use that to make first responders and firefighters less safe, just so that he has, more call when needed contracts for his fire aviation. It's shameful. And I mean, we should be so mad that the people we trust to lead us and represent us are abusing their positions like this.
And then we vote in, like they get voted in by the public. And they should, and the problem is too, once they get in office, a lot of times it seems like they have they're like shielded, right? They're like, I'm here until I get kicked out, because we don't have term limits. So it's like, these people get in, they turn a deaf ear to the people who voted them in.
Literally deaf. I mean, some of these guys are in their 80s,
yeah, right? Like, why not the term limits, age limits, like all those things. And it's like, so they come in, they just say a bunch of nice things that make you, want to believe them and want to trust them. Like, this last round of government, changeover from the Biden administration to Trump, it was like all these things I think that a lot of American people get behind. And then it's like, well, where is it though? At least from where I stand, a lot of it's just like negative stuff that keeps coming out, like losing our public lands and having to constantly fight to try to keep them safe. I mean, that Mike Lee fella, he's been at it again and again and again, and and he's not going to stop.
We're forced into constantly playing defense, and we can't actually go on the offensive against this stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the public lands sale measure, right?
Yeah,
this is what I mean. Again, I'll give credit to Ryan Zinke, who I'm running against. This is probably the one good thing I've seen him do in the last year. He stood up against this amendment to the spending bill that would have sold off 2 to 3 million acres of public lands.
Yeah.
But you know what? That crisis didn't exist until his colleagues created it.
Totally.
We weren't about to sell off these public lands, so he stopped something that was not happening. And meanwhile, we're still gutting every damn agency.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're singing and dancing, talking about all this stuff that does not make our lives better. And we are supposed to be grateful for the scraps of them not making it worse. And that's not... We can do so much better than that. I mean, God, we should not have to settle for this sort of thing.
100%, yeah. And I think I saw recently that Utah had something, was splitting their public lands with the state ground and the federal ground. Or some other state has as much power in the federal ground as it does, as the federal agencies do. I can't remember,
some sort of good neighbor agreement
or
something.
Yeah, ownership. Yeah, so they're kind of, it's almost like they're trying it out. The state will take over a little bit, of all the public lands in Utah. And it's like that. they're not equipped for it. The state's not designed for that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the budget comes from the state instead of the federal budget, right? And it's like right now, the federal agency is one big, you know, happy family where we like all the money gets pooled together and all the budget gets pooled together to get spent on the public ground and can help fill those gaps in those, you know, states that are less prosperous, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, yeah, the path to perdition is one step at a time, and perdition here is just a fully privatized, profit-based wild and fire or public land service. And luckily, I think folks are rightfully pissed about that and standing up and saying something about that. And I think that's why we got a pretty damn good chance of actually winning this election here. I keep bringing it back to that.
Yeah,
obviously.
no, absolutely, man. That's why you're on to talk about it, dude, and talk about what you want to do.
Yeah,
you know?
But I mean, Firestar. I mean, think about I don't know if you ever encountered. What was your last year jumping?
2018. Well, spring of 2018. Like, and I took a detail 17 and 16. So real active jumping was actually 15. Was actually my last year, like actually jumping.
Okay. Well, I mean, what it comes back to, and I guess, again, public lands, it's so much of this is the same story as the housing market or the healthcare industry. But at the core of the problem here is when you insert the profit incentive into these things that are supposed to be public goods. But I've done organizing and advocacy between fire seasons the last 10 years or so. And I was up there, it would have been 2023. And actually a fellow ex-jumper, Willis Curdy, he's a state senator here in Missoula, spent years as a teacher, flew for the Forest Service, I believe, maybe doing air attack for a while. I mean, a bad dude. Yeah. When I walked into his office for the first time, I had my jump pin on the one shitty jacket I got in my wings. And he says, those are your jump wings? I said, yeah. He said, well, I got some pins like that. It says 100, 200, 300. I said, I get it. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a cool guy, salty dog. He had a bill to get hazard pay for state firefighters, DNRC firefighters, because in Montana they did not get any form of hazard pay. And again, if you're on the district, you end up on a throw together crew. You got half feds, half state. You roll up on an IA, well, half of you are getting hazard pay and half aren't. It doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah.
And turnover is real high at the DNRC. They were relatively underpaid, even compared to underpaid federal firefighters.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about $2 to $4 an hour for people fighting fire on state lands. Like, this is a minimum ask. And Willis ends up getting this bill all the way through the state Senate. I'm helping out however I can. I'm calling friends who say work for the Northern after coming over from the state for better pay. And we end up in a House legislative committee in Montana, in Helena. And the chair of that committee is a legislator out of Great Falls. His name's Steve Gist. You can look him up. Nice guy in a lot of regards. Steve Gist just happens to own a wildland fire contracting company. Oh. He's got about 4 engines in this state. And Steve Gist says it out loud. He says, man, I got enough trouble recruiting people to work for my company. It's going to be even harder if I got to compete with DNRC giving hazard pay.
Oh, no.
I mean, Steve, that is the damn point.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is that we want to be able to actually invest in people working for our state agency so they can make a living and get by. You know, we're talking about people making $14, $15 an hour, getting a 25% boost when they're fighting a fire and risking their lives oftentimes. And so, long story short, Steve kills this bill along with the governor. We get the votes to reconsider it. Steve does everything in his power. They kill this bill twice. Oh, God. And this is a perfect little encapsulation of what you're dealing with at the federal level, too. When you have people who stand to make a profit off of a public good like fighting fire, let alone education or like the healthcare system, well, those people sure as hell don't want you helping the workers out in a way that's going to cut into their profit margins. Yep. And that's a fundamental issue of representation. It's a fundamental issue of actually having the right incentives in place for our representatives to serve our interests. Yeah. And it's something we got to call out and attack at the root, or we're never going to get out of this thing.
Yeah, totally, man. And even like for some of those, contract fire positions, it's not career typically. It's not like you're going to go on one of the contract crews and, make a career out of it, because it's more of a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. We're in the federal agencies and the DNRC, we're creating career firefighters. Yeah. And we're getting all the training, and not the contracts aren't. They're getting training too, the same training, a lot of aspects, but and we're actually like the public stewards. Typically, historically, especially the Forest Service and the BLM, well, DNRC too, it's like a Swiss Army knife of outdoors, an outdoor employee. Like, you have your fire, you have your trail clearing ability, you have your tree clearing ability, and anything that you could ever want to do. Like, my first couple of seasons, we did a lot of fence. We, pulled a lot of fence, built a lot of new fence. We did cattle guards because we did a lot of work from the range.
Mm-hmm.
We helped out with the trail crews, did a lot of thinning. Like it was just like this multiple use entity that was under the fire umbrella
to take care of the land.
Yeah, take care of the land. Where like the contract crews, they're not doing that so much unless they're getting contracted to do some thinning.
Yeah.
Or like
and shit. I mean, there is a use. There's a use for contract resources.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. I mean, contract resources. It's the way we do ordering as well.
Oh,
they are supposed to be there for when you as a backup resource, right?
Yep. And that's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's become so twisted that nowadays, like, I mean, shoot, you have whole regions where pay has taken so long to keep up. Like you go to Oregon or Washington, and contract resources are the first person you're ordering. We were at a PL3 this year. And we jumped a fire. Would have been in Washington over outside the enchantments. It was steep country, and we did not catch that fire. It was going. Man, as we're leaving, we're talking about what sort of resource order they want for the half of the load that we're leaving behind to run a task force and a division and to run some heavy equipment. And I mean, first thing we say is, well, you're going to want to probably on this stretch of road, a hot track crew and a Type 2 IA crew would be what you need. And they say, well, it's PL3, right? That should not be a big ask.
Yeah.
And they say, well, there's 0% chance that you are getting an agency hot shot crew or Type 2 IA crew. Maybe it's got something to do with the cuts. I don't know.
Yeah,
so
that's strange.
We're going to put it in order for 5 contract crews.
Hmm.
So again, all of this, even the notion that we're saving any damn money here is a complete illusion because the reality on the ground is that by the nature of these contracts, you have diminished capabilities sometimes, right? And some of these contracts don't require that you have Sawyers.
Yeah.
Or they don't require that you have, the ability to break off into lightning mods. And so we are now ordering twice as many resources for the entire stretch of that fire for as long as you need them on that division as we would if we had just invested up front and, again, having local damn resources who can fight the fire.
100%. Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at with the contract crews, like you said. Like, they're good, and a lot of times they're like a stepping stone for folks who... Yeah. Maybe didn't realize the Forest Service exists or just were trying to get their foot in the door into the Forest Service. They started
didn't know how to navigate this terrible hiring process we got. Yeah.
God, yeah, USC jobs. Yeah, it's brutal. And then getting getting through all the gates, like all the hoops, to actually make the hiring committee, is such a tall order. And like you said, then trying to get local because
you want to talk about inefficiency. Look at the way we do hiring in the federal government. Yeah,
and that kind of goes back to centralizing our HR, right? Like when I first got on, there were still a few of the HR folks that were still like on Forest that just didn't, were about to retire and they didn't want to go to Albuquerque, so they stuck around. And it was so nice having a person like that because you could go to them and be like, hey, gonna apply for the GS4, GS5. How's this look? And they, look at your resume and then help guide you through the application process. And it was so much better. Like, and it was foolproof. Like, you're like, all right, now it's going to go. Now you're just like, you think yellow box is ticked, you send it off and you just pray that it gets through.
Oh, and we're losing talent and it actually diminishes our capabilities on the back end. If you got to apply 9 months in advance. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. I can't count on 2 hands the number of times I've had somebody reach out say, hey, I'm so excited. I want to get involved in fire. I want to become a firefighter. How do I apply? And they're reaching up 6 months in advance of the next fire season. It's too late. Yeah. And you got to tell somebody, well, better luck next year. If you apply in September, you might make it by May. And that's not a way to run a country. It's not a way to run a federal agency.
Yeah, because no one's thinking about fire usually come like fall so much as in like applying for the next season because no other company works that far out. For hiring.
Shit. I mean, when I was a GS3, I was making $12.79 an hour. It is a hell of a thing to ask somebody who is applying for a job that pays less than $13 an hour to plan their life more than 9 months in advance. Yeah. I mean, that borders on ridiculous, I would say.
Totally, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the sort of inefficiency that we actually should be dealing with and rooting out. And there's direct hire authority and all sorts of solutions here that are better than the way we've got it.
Yeah.
But what we got, it ain't it.
No, yeah, because most 18-year-olds are... maybe not as much anymore, but it used to be most 18-year-olds are looking at college and the next step in that sense. They're not thinking about like how to pay, what summer job they're going to get in, September, August. They're not looking at the next summer, like, oh, what am I going to do in then, in May and June, like for summer work. They're thinking, all right, I got to move into, like, especially freshmen, I'm moving to the dorms. I got all these things I got to do. They've got all my classes and my, there's my FAFSA going through. Like, there's a shitload of things that a student has to do fresh out of high school, the next step in life, and applying to the damn Forest Service is not one of them, or whatever agency, they're trying to get on with to actually make the cut,
Yeah.
Let alone our own folks that could be still on fires, that are trying to get their job app in, to get the next.
I remember I got off 7 or 8 days out of service. Where was I? Fire somewhere in Montana, in 21, and thank God we ended up coming into town for the day, because I get 7 or 8 texts from good friends saying like, hey, they just opened the app for rookie next year. It's only open for 7 days.
Yeah.
And luckily I was in that window, so I'm sitting in the passenger seat with my senior driving the rig, putting together a application as a rookie smoke jumper to make sure I get it before we got to turn around and go back out to the line. That is no way to run. I mean, that ain't good for the jump bases. It's not good for the resources, whether you're a crew, a district, or anybody else. And it's not good for the people who are trying to navigate this system and get into public service.
100%, yeah. And I mean, most everybody wants working outdoors, at least for a little bit. Like you talk to a lot of the jumpers at the NSA, National Smoke Jumper Association. The folks that are running, like President Mike Bina, and then the folks on the board, the older folks around, Mike's age, they were doing it for a college job. So like, that's like some of the most fun they had was, in between college was jumping. So it's like, man,
those are the days too. I mean, back then, you had you could work a 3-month season. I mean, that sounded great.
Yeah, and then you come back and get your job again next year, and most of them are making a career out, but the experience to go work in the woods, man, that's what I mean. Most college folks love to do is to go out and work in the woods. But if you're making it hard for them to get on, any kind of crew, it's especially like a trails crew going away. It's like, man, like we got to work for us. We just got to like help them get on the team, you know?
And we got young people all over this country who actually do want to work. They want to work at a job where they can make a living wage, of course. But I mean, when it comes to the civil service, we have created all of these systems that make it a whole lot more difficult than it ought to be to access that system and to get involved. And that hampers us top to bottom. And it's something we can fix too, right?
Yeah,
we have models that work better. When we prioritize, say, fire hire and give folks direct hire authority, it works a whole lot better. When we decentralize things like HR so that, you actually know the person who's processing your application, they can help you and make sure that mischecking one box about specialized service doesn't disqualify you. That makes a world of difference. It keeps money in our local communities, and it actually makes all of this work a lot better. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, especially like you said, local communities, folks that are already living here that want to work for the Forest Service. Like we're recruiting nationally for a position that people can't even afford to move here to get, because like you said, the GS3 doesn't pay enough for someone to move from, say New York or something to come all the way out here. Yeah. So if we got plenty of folks here in the local area that can do the job. I mean, if people want to move here, more power to you.
Sure, yeah.
But like, it's tough. It's expensive, so we got a huge workforce here locally that we can, work with. And then, I don't know if you want to tackle anything else before, let you go, but like, I mean, I don't know how much time you got. You got a little bit more time?
For you, Luke, all night.
Oh, yeah. Sam, well, I appreciate you, man.
You got to bump up the sauna after this, but yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know. I was kind of looking. I can see the light on, so it's been in my mind after, because for folks listening, Sam started a sauna before we jumped in here and to wind down the evening. But yeah, and then housing, right? It's like once you get in there, like, because like, maybe some of the criticism that you might get is that like, well, you haven't been in office, so like, how are you going to do all these things? How are you going to problem solve all these things that you don't really know about? It's like, well, no one really knows about these things. You're not born a politician, so like.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, I mentioned it briefly, but so outside of fire, I did organizing and advocacy between seasons since I started. So I've worked for everyone from the ACLU here in Montana, doing organizing and policy work, to I put together a coalition of homeless shelters in the state, Montana Coalition to Solve Homelessness, with a team of other folks. But we ended up bringing 12 shelters together, worked with the State Library Association, worked on public education, on criminal justice. So, a unique thing I bring here is that I actually have worked to pass bills into law. I've passed 9 or 10 bills into law, mainly with Republicans carrying them, because that's what you do to get things done in the state, and because there are still reasonable people in both parties in Montana. Probably, across the country, but like, that is how we're going to get these things done. Is like, you cannot come from a place where the only person I'm willing to work with is a Democrat, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard, you're a Montana Democrat, you might be a California Republican, and vice versa. And so there's a lot of common ground here. And shit, even, folks who, are full in for MAGA or Donald Trump, a lot of those folks, when I work with them at the legislature, have a whole lot of common cause when it comes to something like fixing a broken criminal justice system. I was, standing in the basement with a state senator, talking to him about a bill that we had, which ultimately passed, to get rid of fines and fees in the juvenile justice system. here in Montana. Fines and fees that you are charging to somebody who might be a 13-year-old defendant facing jail time, and they are going to accrue interest because you can't make a whole lot of money when you're serving time in juvie. And they're going to get what? They're going to graduate when they're 18 and have massive amounts of debt. And you wonder why folks have trouble getting out of the system. Anyways, I'm talking to the state senator about this. He's a very conservative Republican, and he says, Sam, those people behind bars, they're all assholes until one of those assholes has your last name. And there are a whole lot of people who got more common cause when it comes to something like criminal justice, regardless of which party you're in, regardless of who you voted for president, than the news would make it out to look like, or than the current state of affairs would make it out to look like. And I think that that is something that has been forgotten in the country, and it is something that our representatives are not bringing to Congress. I don't see a whole lot of bipartisanship going on over there. And it's a skill set I can bring on top of actually being a field-going person who knows what these are like when you're at the downstream end of all this policy making.
Totally, man. Yeah, like all that background, and that's kind of what I was getting at about the adaptability that you have, but also I didn't know about that background, so that's huge. And already have experience working with both parties, and then the adaptability, right? Like, and I think that also kind of comes from being a firefighter, but a lot of people have. But if you're in a fire role, like especially if you're in charge of a fire or a group of people, you have to be a problem solver. You have to be solution oriented, because if you're the opposite, you're never gonna get anything done. Because a lot of times, like, on a fire that it looks impossible, right? Like especially those giant fires, it's like, oh my god, like even if you can't wrangle with 8 smoke jumpers, get an initial attack, you're like, all right, next step. What are we ordering now? Like, and kind of same thing like you just discussed there. It's like, yeah, well, I did this and this and this, and I was able to work with someone, like on the Republican side of things, and bringing things together. And also, like you said too, if you get out of the mainstream of social media and all that stuff, because they're all just trying to get clicks and stuff, so they're all trying to get, the world's on fire, and it's like, it's not really. And like, if you look at what the most of the public is voting for, the reason why, like, in my eyes, that like someone like Trump got in is because he was saying he was aware enough to know what the public was wanting, right? Like, they want the dollar to go further, the basics, right? They want cheaper gas, they want more affordable housing, and he was saying he was going to bring all those things. And so it wasn't like,
the other party, Joe Biden was telling you the economy's better than you think it is. And you wonder why people were so pissed. I'm pissed too.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it wasn't like all these, like, red, MAGA hat wearing folks came out of the woodwork and were just like, all of a sudden, they didn't vote in the first election, but they voted in this last one. It's like, no, it wasn't like that. It was like a bunch of people who were more middle of the road, who probably get along with everybody. We're like, I'm tired of what we've had, so we need something different, Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of people in this country whose lives were not materially better in 2024 than they were in 2020. Yeah. And you know what? When government is not making your life better, and you vote the party in power out of office, that's actually how democracy is supposed to work.
Yeah.
And the shame is that we didn't give people an option in this flawed binary choice system we have of a two-party system that was actually compellingly going to make their lives better when it came to something like making housing affordable, which government sure as hell can play a role in, fixing a broken healthcare system, making it so you can afford childcare. And I mean, man, in the last 6-7 weeks, it feels like there's this new consensus that, like, oh, we should be talking about affordability. And when I hear that, it makes me so damn angry. Because it's like, where the hell have y'all been living for the last 7 years?
Yeah.
Now we should talk about affordability? Man, I've been scraping by for the last 5.
Yeah.
Trying to hold on to this little 900 square foot house.
Yeah, 100%, man.
And it shouldn't be like that, man. Like, these are all choices that we make. And, I think we can start making better choices in who we elect and better choices in what we invest in. So we're not paying all the money on the back end instead of just investing up front to make it so this country and the state are a livable place.
Yeah, 100%. Because we're having what I've seen a ton, especially in the agency side. And it's not just the Forest Service. It's everybody who is a blue-collar person in the state of Montana. It's not just Montana. This is pretty nationwide. Mm-hmm. A 2-income family that can't afford a house, and childcare.
Yep.
So it's like, what do you do? One of those has to go, and a lot of times it's not having the family because they can't afford it. So you have a good couple, parents that would be awesome parents who are going to raise great kids, but they can't afford it, so they're not going to do it because they need to buy a house because rent is costing as much as their mortgage.
And because childcare costs more than sending a kid through college.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can even make it in. And I mean, man, we had a housing crisis in this country before, and we're getting outside of fire here, but you know what? A public good is part of what we're talking about here. When we had a housing crisis after World War II, we had a whole generation of people coming back to this country, who had fought in the war, ready to build a family, buy a house. And so you know what we did? We spent billions of dollars in 1950 dollars under Harry Truman with a bipartisan consensus to build hundreds of thousands of units of homes. That's what it takes. And to create the low-income housing voucher. And there were flaws in the ways they did it. But, man, we sure as hell seem to have a housing crisis right now, and we sure as hell are not investing to fix it in the way we did, or in a way that might do it a little bit better. Yeah. And we could do that if we just asked everybody to carry their own damn weight, just like we would on a fire.
Yeah.
Just like anyone does when they're actually working out here. And the same goes for the healthcare industry, man. We got people who are making millions of dollars off of all of our backs so that I can pay $900 a month for a high deductible, low premium plan, and that low premium is $900 a month now in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Somebody's making money here. Somebody's getting rich. It's not you and me.
No, man. Yeah, I've had a good example of that too. I've had Crohn's disease for 20 years. I was diagnosed 20 years ago. I had to leave jumping because of the illness, and then I got a tumor. So I had like all these medical issues. Still have Crohn's. The tumor's gone because they cut it out. But it's like, yeah, thank God, yeah. And that definitely fell under, because it was on my kidneys, so it definitely fell under presumptive diseases. But even with that, I couldn't afford to retire because I can't afford to live in my house. And luckily I'm doing better now. But at that point, my health was so bad, I could barely get to work every day. And there was no way I was going to be able to fight another fire season. So I was able to schedule out of my fire position into partnership position. But, like, there was no help, there was nothing, like...
Yeah, I didn't know about the tumor. I'm sorry. Well, I'm glad they got it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, dude, I was super lucky they found it because I can't remember how they ended up finding it. Scan. My Crohn's was flared up all, crazy, so they did a CT scan to make sure I didn't have any blockages in my intestine. And luckily, their rad tech was good enough, the radiology technician was good enough to spot an abnormality on my kidney, which was embedded in my adrenal gland. So they went and checked it out, and then I had to get a bunch more tests, and then they figured out we think it's a pheochromocytoma. Yeah. So it was like, oh man. And when I was talking I had to go to Mayo Clinic because it's so rare to get it removed. And when I was talking to my surgeon, they're like, "This is super rare, man. Most time they find this in an autopsy." I was like, "Oh yeah." And he's like,
"That's scary."
Yeah, he's like, "Because it kills you. Like that's the only way to really pick this thing up because it's hard to say if you got it, and it's what ends up doing because it's in your adrenal. It just starts kicking your fight or flight, starts pinging it randomly throughout the day, like even at night, middle of the night, like it'll just ping your fight or flight. So releases a bunch of aldosterone and cortisol, which are the fight or flight hormones. So you just get this ping of like poof,
stress the hell out. I bet.
Yeah, from 0 to 100. Just like respond to a fire.
Yeah.
But that was my lifestyle, so I was like, that's how I was like, it's just my normal now. It's just
shit. Yeah. Sustainable.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, that's just my background of like having to deal with that stuff and not being able to like even retire after almost 20 years with the Forest Service. I started in 2008. It's 2026 now. But I got that seasonal time that doesn't count. You know, so it's like. So that was just my soapbox for my own experiences.
No,
but I'm not.
Yeah, and
I'm not
how did
unique
that work?
in it.
Navigating, did OWCP step in there? What did navigating the healthcare system look like?
Yeah, no, I got no help. I just got when I went to go, because they're not supposed to if you have a tumor, on your kidney or anything in your body, it's supposed to be recognized as presumptive that I fought fire for, was it 5 seasons? I can't remember how many seasons when you qualify for presumptive disease if you get cancer after maybe it's 3 seasons. But after you fought fire for 3 seasons, if you get any kind of these cancers that's listed in their presumptive diseases, category skin cancer, lung cancer, brain cancer, kidney cancer, liver cancer, probably there's a bunch, right? And then they forgot female reproductive organs, so then they finally got female reproductive organs in as a later addition. Thank God. But it's
because this is the sort of shit that happens when you are sucking so much smoke that you puke. I mean, right? You go through enough of those experiences, and you're like, I wonder if something might happen after all this.
Yeah, and then after the Palisades fire, they found all the heavy metals in the air from that one, which makes sense because all these buildings that are getting burned up that are made out of metal, and plastic and wood, but the rest of it's asphalt shingles, tin roofs, all the things that are getting in the air, and Forest Service folks or wildland firefighters don't have respirators, so and we've all experienced it, and even if you're just sweating, you get it on your skin and stuff. But anyways, so that's my little experience, which is not unique. I've known quite a few folks who've got cancer. I've known 2 firefighters, 2 jumpers that died from cancer.
Really?
One was my friend Ed Lynn, and he didn't even get a chance to retire. He's 57. His last season of fighting fire, and he passed away before he could even enjoy retirement.
It's terrible.
Oh, it's awful, man. And You know, no one really knows about that. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I started the podcast is because like he had such a great story and never got a chance to catch it. You know,
Yeah.
like, capture it like this because.
Well, these are the people we ought to be taking care of. Yeah.
100%, man. So yeah, that's my little soapbox. Like, man, I couldn't afford to retire if I wanted to. You know, even if I had qualified for that medical retirement. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not. I mean, the system isn't working for you if you've been serving the federal government that long and working your tail off, and and can't even move on to the next damn career.
Yeah, and lost my firefighter retirement because of it. You know, like that's some garbage. You know, like
and you got all these people. I mean, shit, you probably. I've known guys who were 14-year hotshots as temps.
Yeah.
None of that counts.
None
right?
of it counts. Yeah.
And it's like no one sees them. Or, you know, I was a temp until year 5, year 6, and I mean, shit, none of that counts. I mean, none of those fire seasons, none of those summers sucking smoke actually matter here. I mean, that again, that's a system that doesn't work for the normal people who are working their tails off, and it's a reason that people leave the service or leave the federal government. It's a reason that we have retention issues, and man, it's something that like I would sure love having a representative who's willing to do some work to fix.
Especially,
I would love to be that representative.
Yeah, well, man, I'd love to have that, man. Because like the thing too is that you know the like blueprint already exists, right? The military has that, right? Like you leave the military, you get discharged, you get disability checklist, right? And you can get like high or low on that list, you know, depending on what happened to you, and like, which makes sense, man. Like they're shooting a lot of guns and all these things they're exposed to, so yeah, they get a disability when they leave. You know, like why isn't the same for us? You know, like we're running chainsaws. You know, we got those shitty little foam earplugs that we're using. Luckily, my hearing's still pretty good, but like a lot of people don't have good hearing. You know, from running saws all the time.
Yeah. Instead, they give us hearing tests every year just so that they can use it against us potentially and tell us that it's your fault. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had one of those hearing tests in a trailer similar to this that was next to a goddamn highway. I couldn't even hear the beeps.
Oh, you're asking? You got me that list of questions for a hearing test that says you ever smoked cigarettes? Hell no, I never smoked a cigarette. As far as you're concerned.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You can't really want to be honest with, even if you wanted to, you know. And yeah. So like you said, I think it's all fixable, and I think the common ground thing's huge, right, man? I mean, that's definitely what I wanted to hear, and I figured, man, like, you know, we've been friends for a little while, so I figured like that was where your stance was, because that's how you get shit done. You don't get shit done by throwing stuff at the other team, right? You get shit done by working together. And you know, to loop it back to firefighting, like that's what happens when we get on fire, right? Especially jumpers. You jump a fire, it goes big, you know, like, or you jump a fire that's already going big, and it's not like every jump fire goes big, so I won't give that people that attention. We catch a lot of fires as jumpers, but like, you know, if you happen to jump a fire that's going big, you order a bunch of resources, and it's not like you're getting all Forest Service folks, you know, or agency folks. You're getting whatever that's available, right? And sometimes even BLM smoke jumpers, you know, BLM hotshot crew, Parks hotshot crew, you know, like
beautiful vision of all sorts of people from all, you know, private industry or local state resources or VFDs coming together.
Yeah, for a common goal, baby. You know,
and you don't give a damn who that guy voted for.
Yeah, or
you just give a damn if they're actually working and swinging a tool.
Exactly, or the color of their truck. You don't give a shit, man. Like, it's like, hey, man, like, here's where I need you. Let me know if you need anything, but, you know, this piece of ground is where I need you to go, you know? No problem. Can you go set up that pump? Awesome, thank you. You know, like, whatever it might be, you know, like, you know, they need a porta tank. Can you get that for me? Thanks. You know, and then just keep cruising, you know, setting things up as you go, and all working together.
A well-run small incident or mid-sized incident, that is a vision of how government ought to work, right? And it's not how it's been working lately, but, you know, it could work like that again. And again, like, I actually think on a fundamental level, it's not, you know, it's economic representation. It's having people who represent us who actually know what life is like on the ground here.
Yes.
If you're working your ass off and barely getting by, but it's also, I mean, if you have ever worked a fire, like we said at the beginning, having people who are actually field going and actually know how these things work when you're on the bottom end of policymaking and not somebody who's at a think tank over in DC makes a world of difference, because all these policies actually affect our lives, and they make a difference about whether we can afford a house and whether we can afford health care or afford to raise a family in the state. And I think we can start fixing that by hopefully getting folks like us into office. And
folks like you, I'm not planning on running anytime soon.
Oh, you're next, brother.
No, I don't. Oh man, I don't know. That's a lot of headache, man. So I appreciate you taking on that headache. Yeah. And one last thing with the housing thing, and I don't know, like where this idea came from. But I remember hearing it, and I don't know what exactly the ins and outs of it, but I thought it was a decent idea at the time. That's one that I've run it by you. So there's this idea that, like, if you have one home, right, your single home family, I think it was like no property tax. But if you own a second home, like some kind of income, like a rental property, Airbnb, whatever you're doing with that second home, property tax, and a decent sized one.
Yeah.
Which totally makes sense to me, right? Like, You bought the house, you live in the house. Why are you paying for it again?
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going to be trying to make a profit out of a second property, yeah, you should have a tax on it.
I think what you're describing is absolutely part of the answer. I mean, like, shit, why do we allow corporations to own homes whatsoever?
Yes.
Right? Like, how in the world did we allow kind of what we've been talking about here, this basic good, a roof over all of our heads, right? Food, water, shelter. This is the basic shit that we all need.
Yeah.
Why did we allow that to become a commodity that is corporatized and commodified until suddenly, the median home in this city cost over $600,000?
Yeah.
You know, like that does not serve any of our interests. It serves somebody's interests, not ours.
Yeah.
And, you know, we actually just passed a second home tax in this state.
Ooh.
Bipartisan work. You know, you can quibble about whether it could be structured better. I'm sure it could. But by all means, if someone owns, it shouldn't just be a second home tax. If you own more than 5 homes or more than 10 or 20 homes, well, you ain't living in all of them. So by all means, we should have a progressive tax.
That's what exactly. As it goes up, as you own different homes, right? Like, because a lot of times, like, what you're seeing folks too is buy another home for, rental property. And like the rental property is not as bad. You know, there might be a better way.
We need rentals too. Yeah.
But like, like some Airbnb things and stuff like that, the Verbos or whatever. It's like, how many of these properties even have people in them? Like for most of the year, right? Like not a family that could be utilizing it.
There's a way to structure this. I mean, shit, I lived in rentals, obviously, most of my life, and not everybody needs to own a home someday.
Yeah.
It's sure nice if that's a path that is set out for you that you can actually attain. Working a normal job, that's how it ought to be. But if you don't want to own a home and you want to rent, we need good rentals. And you know what? When I did renters' rights at the legislature for many years, I mean, man, the mom and pop landlords were almost never the problem. You know who was the problem? Oftentimes was a select few property management companies that are managing hundreds or thousands of homes. And when you got hundreds of homes instead of just 5 or 6, suddenly every single house and every renter is a number, and it's a number that is either higher or it is lower. And it's a number that feeds into your profit margins. And just like so much else of this, like that scale is part of the problem. And having a progressive tax system when it comes to property tax is part of the answer.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking too, man. Just like I heard that idea got floated around. I was like, man, I think I like that a lot, especially if there was like no property tax on your first home, and then like I said, property tax on second homes, and it goes up as you own homes. Like that would be huge. I think people get a lot more done and get a lot more head in life if that. Because it also like there's that thing with the economy, right? That if you're getting less taken from you, there's a chance that you're going to spend more, right? So like put more back into the economy if you have more money. So instead of just taking it from, the average, blue collar person, like in taxes, you give them more money to spend, and they're going to put more money in the economy by buying vehicles and buying things they might need.
The velocity of money is the economic term here. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, right, especially when you give poor and working people, when you give us more resources, well, I got just enough to get by, right? Like I'm still waiting. If I had a bit more money, then I could fix, I could go replace the spark plugs in my shitty little van. Yeah. And if I go replace those spark plugs, well, then Dennis, my mechanic, he's got a little bit more money to build out the converted storage unit that he operates his mechanic's shop out of, and then he's got more money, whoever he spends that, But instead, all of this is backwards, man. The effective income tax rate for me is something like 30+% when I'm making $80,000 a year. The effective income tax rate for somebody making over $1 billion a year in this company is more like 10 to 15%. So we have flipped all of this, right? And again, I want to say, like, the sort of things I'm talking about, I don't want to tax anybody out of existence. If you are successful and you make a whole lot of money, good for you.
Yeah,
that's something a lot of us
keep that. Yeah.
But man, you got to pay the same share of your income as the rest of us.
Yeah, share the load. Share the weight, right?
Carry your own weight. And that's all we got to ask people to do is just carry your own weight, because it's what you would do on the fire line. And it's what you ought to do existing in a civil society here where we all got to pull together if we want to make this stuff work, because it ain't working right now.
100%, man. And that's the origin story of humans. As a tribal group, we all came from some little tribe and all the way back to the beginning, and everyone had a job in that tribe to coexist together, because we're kind of wimpy as humans, but like we're pretty smart, and we're pretty good at like directing things out, like delegating tasks, and everyone's got a task, and you all come together, and that's how the tribe thrives, and that's how we can stay healthy and expand, and that's how we become this beautiful population of humans. And by doing something like that, and just kind of like keeping back to the core of things, right? Like you said, sharing the weight.
Yeah, let's just get back to basics.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's make it so, man. I appreciate you having me on the podcast to talk about all that.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I appreciate it, man. And I don't know if you got anything else, last thing to throw out there.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, go if you're interested and you want to find out more about what we're putting together here in Western Montana. It's samformontana.com. Real simple, all spelled out. It's the same across socials. I don't know if maybe there's some way to post that with it, but
yeah,
I need all the help I can get, man, because most of my friends are broke firefighters.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I need everyone pitching in and signing up to volunteer and spreading the good word.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, dude, and spreading the good word, like you said, man, and talking about finding that middle ground, man. That's huge, Well, I appreciate all you guys tuning in, and like Sam said, he's got all those links for you, and I'll put a link in the description of this video. Thanks, folks. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, thank you. Oh man, thanks, dude. That was awesome.
That was good.
Yeah.